Most people know me. My name is Eric Gray. I wear a number of hats for Gopher State Officials Association, as well as the Minnesota State High School League. So I'm not gonna read my resume here. So, but the purpose of the meeting is to talk about section basketball, which is starting this week. I'm hoping we can keep this meeting to an hour, but everyone has been so busy that we really haven't had time to pull together a fancy agenda with PowerPoints and all of that. So we're just going to make do with what we have. Steve Mikowski is unable to join us due to some family obligations. So I'll lead the meeting. I think we should maybe just view this more as more like a fireside chat, if you will. I've asked Austin to turn off the individual mics so that we can not have a lot of background noise, if you will. If you do have a question, please put the question in the chat room, and Rick DeGardner and Mike Gearman and Craig Laird and Austin Legess will respond to chat questions as we go along. Austin, were you successful in finding a few plays that we could look at later?
Yeah, if we have time, we can go over some different film stuff.
So what I'm thinking we could do is get through the hour of material that I have to present, and those that want to stay after the meeting to review the video plays that Austin has selected, we can do that. So that way the night won't get too long, and we'll leave it up to people as to which parts of the meeting they want to stay for and which parts they would prefer not to stay for. So, the first thing I'd like to do is observe a moment of silence for Brandon Voss, a Gopher basketball official who unexpectedly passed away last week. I don't have any details regarding cause of death, nor have I seen an obituary. I suppose we'll share that information as it becomes available. But as of now, that's about all I can share with you. If you have additional information, you might want to throw it in the chat. But please make sure, if you put something in the chat about this situation, make sure it's accurate information. It's not speculative. It's not gossip. So let the moment of silence. We'll take a 30-second moment of silence in remembrance of Brandon, starting now. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So before we talk about sections, I did want to briefly mention a couple of other topics that are that I've been given a lot of thought about. And as a matter of fact, I asked Austin to put in the chat room an article from someone that's affiliated with the Federation, National Federation of High Schools. And I think the National Federation has seen, I lost my, hold on a second. I think the National Federation has seen enough poor behavior by fans, players, coaches, student cheering sections, etc., at high school sporting events, not around the country, that I truly believe sportsmanship will be the #1 point of emphasis coming into next year. And we've seen this behavior deteriorate for the last few years, and I think the primary reason is that no one is held accountable for poor behavior. So it's basically just it's continued to get worse. And we see what's going on locally regarding poor behavior. It will continue until someone holds the culprits, if for lack of a better term, accountable. You know, we've got issues going on at Prior Lake. We've got issues going on at New Prague. We've got issues going on at Minnetonka. We have a player at Hopkins, and I think we've seen video of this particular player who has numerous transgressions on the court. And as far as I know, and I don't have any inside information or whatever, but as far as I know, the young man has not been disciplined. I don't know if you talk to Dan Johnson or if you talk to Kenny, the coach at Hopkins, you know, maybe they have done something behind the scenes to address this kid's issues, but you know, if you ask them and you know, what have they done, and they tell you, well, we've talked to the kid. Well, at some point, talking doesn't get it done, and you have to take the next steps. And the only thing that coaches and players really understand, and administrators for that part that really understand, you get their attention when there is the threat of them not playing. And I think the penalties for this poor behavior has to have some teeth. It has to be a lot. It has to have a lot more consequences, and those consequences, in my humble opinion, have to involve suspensions. You know, the players just don't play, you know, and the coaches just don't coach. That's the only thing they're going to listen to. That's the only thing that's going to make a difference. So I'm optimistic going into next year that we will have more support from the National Federation, which in turn means that we will have more support from the Minnesota State High School League to address some of these issues. So I don't want to beat that horse to death. The other thing I want to quickly address is a number of you have talked to me about game fees or increasing game fees for officials in the metro and surrounding areas. And when I say metro, I mean, you know, St. Paul, Minneapolis. And I think we're at a point where we can do something about this. I think we're at a point where we've never had more leverage than we do now to increase our game fees. And I think it's going to take a collaborative effort between MOA, between St. Paul, Cap City, between Gopher, some of the other local associations, to set aside our differences on whatever differences we might have on other issues, to unify and come together on this particular issue. And to me, it's basic economics 101. It's supply and demand. You know, if you look at if you've studied economics or whatever, you have the supply and the demand curve. If supply is high and demand is low, then you're going to have suppressed prices, right? That just sort of, again, that's just economics 101. But if you have high demand and low supply, then that combination should push prices higher. And that's exactly what we're facing. As officials, we're on the right side of this equation. There are more and more basketball games every year, and we're losing officials every year. So the demand is going up and the supply is going down. And the officials that are remaining, we're asking them to work more days, which means they're working more games. And I think that, you know, that should be factored into the game fees that we are expected to work for. So I'm optimistic that if we do, that's one of my goals over the summer is to work with MOA, to work with St. Paul Cap City to see if we can increase game fees and stop giving discounts for double varsity games and stop giving discounts for JV varsity assignments. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. And I've heard that the outstate associations are doing much, much better in terms of their game fees than we are. So, you know, we need to analyze that, look into that. Maybe they have more of a captive audience. Maybe where they officiate basketball, they don't have the options that the metro areas and the surrounding suburbs do. But again, I think that's where it comes. It's incumbent upon Gopher, MOA, and St. Paul Cap City to come together and see what we can do about this situation in unison. So that's my 2 cents on that subject. Rick, at this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to you to talk about section assignments, where we are, what officials need to do to make your job and my job easier. So if you could just take that away, I'd appreciate it.
So hello, everybody. We're obviously using Arbiter this year. This is a new system for myself and for most of you as well. Just looking ahead, it appears that Gopher State, we're going to be transitioning over to Arbiter this summer. So starting next fall with the football season, more than likely we'll be switching completely over to Arbiter. So this is something that it's a work in progress. I'm trying to get a little bit more familiar with it. What we need everybody to do is, again, Arbiter is the section software for assignments. So as far as blocking your availability, accepting games, all that other stuff, you need to use Arbiter. And along with this system, especially during section play, if you know, for example, there's going to be a lot of first round games on this Tuesday, and there's going to be second round games on Thursday. In most instances, we obviously are not going to know what all the pairings are going to be for that second round date. So that may not be entered into the system until either late Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning. The reason I'm bringing that up is it would really be helpful if everybody would log into GOT Officials 1, 2, 3 times a day, if at all possible, because every time I make a change, or actually I make the pairings or the actual assignments, it forces all the officials to go back in and re-accept. And just like the regular season, until we see on our end, on Eric Ray's end and my end, that you've re-accepted the games, it's still kind of in flux as to know whether you're still able to work that game. So if you could make it a point to go into Arbiter quite often, just to make sure that all your games are still showing as accepted. We may end up having to switch around officials for conflict of interest or whatever the reasons are. So it's quite possible that you might think you're going someplace on Thursday, and then Wednesday morning we end up making a switch and having you go someplace else. So again, we don't make changes just to make changes. We make changes because there are always valid reasons behind it. Sometimes we can share those, sometimes more often than not we can't, but I guess you just have to trust the process. And Eric is the primary section assigner for Gopher State this year. I'm going to be assisting him in inputting the games and the results and making sure that the dates and the locations and the times and everything else is jiving. But again, appreciate your assistance in trying to make all this happen. Again, traveling, that's, the fewer games there are, the more chance there's going to be of people having to travel, and that's just the nature of the beast. I'll just give you an example. Eric and I are going to be talking later after this meeting. We have section 8 4A. There's a crew we're going to have to send to Brainerd, and I don't think we have any Gopher State officials that are within 30 miles of Brainerd. So there's going to be 3 officials that are probably going to be looking at their game assignments later on tonight and going, why in the hell am I going to Brainerd? Well, again, there's a reason for that, because we've got all of the quarterfinal games in this particular instance. So same type of thing. We got New Life Academy, we got Hutchinson, we got schools that are further away than what they typically are. So most regions are paying mileage. I honestly don't know how that works. I'm assuming there might be some more information coming from the high school league or the sections on how that goes, or maybe there's somebody here on the conference call that knows how mileage is paid for sections. But this is something Bozo it always takes care of. So I don't know all the finer details, but if there are any questions that you need answered, send me an email, and hopefully between Eric and Austin and Mike and Craig and myself, we can get some answers for you. But again, just looking at, I'd say with yesterday, I inputted 30 some games, and I think there's still 22 of them people haven't accepted their assignments yet. So again, it may be lack of awareness. I'm not sure on your end, whether you get an email saying, hey, similar to what God Officials does, you know, an event has changed, go on, log on to God Officials. So I don't know exactly how that works. But again, it's really going to be imperative for the next 3 or 4 weeks that you guys check on your arbiter and take a look at your assignments. It's crucial that everybody contact your partners 1 or 2 days in advance. I think 48 hours is optimum. No more, no less. We don't want you contacting a school tomorrow for a game that's on Friday. It's too far away. There's too many variables that might be happening on officials bailing out or us having to make changes. So ideally, contact your partners 48 hours in advance. Eric, are you going to be going over this stuff? Am I jumping onto your stuff?
No, that's exactly what I wanted you to cover.
Okay. So again, ideally, 48 hours in advance, contact your 2 partners. One of you contact the home school. As we get closer to some semifinal games and final games, some of those locations are predetermined. In those cases, notify where the school is, that athletic director, as well as the high seed or the home team. And this is where you want to go overboard on information. You want the name of the officials, you want the date, the time, the location, your cell phone numbers. It's imperative that you mention you're with Gopher State Officials. There's several sections that we split the conference with, so it's not outside of the realm of possibilities that there might be 2 different associations thinking they got that game. So if you can make sure you identify who the 3 officials are, along that you're a member of Gopher State Officials. Again, it might ring a bell for somebody if they go, no, wait a minute here, right? We just got an email from MOA and then we can deal with that. And that happens. We just, on Saturday, Armstrong gave the their non-conference game to both Gopher and MOA. We were able to find that out before the event happened. But on Wednesday, it was Champlain Park girls. They had a non-conference, and a crew from Three Rivers showed up and a crew from Gopher showed up. So that stuff does happen. It's bad if that type of situation happens during the regular season. It's going to be a disaster if something like that happens in sections. So we want to make sure that we have as much communication going between the 3 officials assigned and the athletic director. Make sure you require a response back, and then again, give them your cell phone number. We just want to make sure everything goes good, and that you get that correspondence. I think that's all I got.
So Rick, can you reiterate who we're supposed to confirm assignments with? Because it's a little different than regular season. It may not be the AD, it may, is it the section assigner or I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Right. So for the first couple rounds, I think without exception, it's always at the high seed. So just do what you've done normally, is contact the wherever the game is going to be played, and make sure you just contact that athletic director, and again, provide that all information. Some of the sections will have their semifinals at a certain site and or their finals at a certain site. So when we get to that point, for example, I think some semifinals and finals are at Chisago. So even if Chisago is not in that semifinal game, still email the Chisago Lakes AD as well as the high seed. Notify both of them just to make sure, again, that everything's good. There was just earlier, or actually it was yesterday, they changed the game time. They moved it from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So again, those are the things that there's a lot of moving parts here. You got section chairs, you got region coordinators with the state, you got various official associations, you got all this stuff. So we just got to make sure we do whatever we can so we know for sure where you guys are going, and make sure everything's good. This year, every single game is 3-person crew, all the way from the playing games all the way through. So that's a nice plus on our end. And then again, I know there's mileage going on for folks that are traveling a certain distance. I don't know what that is offhand. So again, I know that crew that's going to end up going to Brainerd on Thursday night. There'll be some sort of mileage stipend, but I don't know what that is. Last thing, again, it's imperative that if you're, I'm not even sure in arbiter if you can actually turn back a game once you accept it. And maybe that's a setting on my end that if I would have toggled a button that would allow you to do it. But Some officials have contacted me and told me that they're not able to turn back a game. Those instances, again, you got to contact Eric Gray right away. If it's, if it's 2 days or 3 days away, I think an email is sufficient. For sure, if it's the same day, you better not send Eric an email. You might be in meetings during the day. If he's got a full-time job, you better call a frantic email on his cell phone and say, hey, I got a game tonight. There's a problem. So he's the primary person to coordinate the assigning, but I'm going to help Eric out kind of in the background as far as inputting information into Arbiter and try to keep things straight on that end.
Yeah, there are a lot of moving pieces that are making this year's assigning a lot more difficult. We're using a new system, and I'm helping Rick out this year. I've got a major project going on at work that's going to be implemented on Tuesday, March 1st. So I'm going to be extremely tied up during the day, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this coming week. So again, I mean, that's just the way it is. We'll get through it. But if you can help us out by getting us the information as soon as you can. If you don't hear from me, then keep calling me, keep emailing me until you do hear back from me. But I just want to let everybody know that I'm going to be extremely tied up. We think we have everything. Well, no, we don't think. We're all set for Tuesday, March 1st, right, Rick?
Yeah, except on Tuesday, March 1st, there's a Section 4 2A games, and as of 30 minutes ago, it's still not on the high school league website. I emailed Steve Jensen, who's the region chair. So there are 4 games Tuesday night, and I don't even know where they're going to be. So if you're scheduled to work 4 AA girls on Tuesday, just again, continue to check out Arbiter, and I will get those assignments posted as soon as I get that information.
Yeah. I forgot about that issue. We don't even know where some of the games are going to be played. We don't know who's playing or where the games are going to be played Tuesday, and we are a day and a half away. So, okay. Anything else, Rick?
Good luck to everyone.
Yep. Have fun. Okay. So let's get into Section B ball. So, just as an introduction, this is a special time of year. We hear the term March Madness. We all know what that means, but it's win or go home. And for many players, this will be the last game they ever play for their high school team. So being on the losing end will hurt. Emotions will be high. And if you've never been around the section playoff game, you can expect that tears will flow as well. So because of what's at stake, we absolutely have to be at our best. So let's be considerate or aware of what we're going to see, what emotions we're going to see, and let's handle those accordingly. So Jason sent out an email similar to what we're doing tonight. He sent out an email in preparation of sections starting next week, and a lot of the things that I'm going to cover were covered in Jason's email. So I do encourage you to read Jason's email. I'm also incorporating a lot of notes and comments that Steve provided me. So again, I'm not the expert here. I'm not all knowing. This is a collaboration of information from a number of sources, but so let's get started. Let's arrive, if we can, at the site 75 minutes before tip. I know that's an additional 15 minutes before we arrive at normal regular season games. My last regular season game the other night, I was 15 minutes late. So, do as I say, not as I do. So what are you going to do with that extra 15 minutes? I think it's important to get there, to get the lay of the land, meet and confer with site management, and know where they will be stationed throughout the game in case you need them for, poor fan behavior or whatever. Inspect the court for anything unusual. You know, make sure that you've got a good set of nets that are hanging from the basket. Make sure that the baskets are not twisted or leaning in any particular direction. Make sure coaching boxes, restricted arc, free throw blocks, all of that stuff, make sure they're properly marked. Make sure officials have enough room to comfortably maneuver table side. You know what I mean? Where you got the table and you've got both benches on the same side. Make sure there's enough room for the official to run up and down that sideline without bumping into coaches, without tripping over the players, blah, blah, blah. If there isn't enough room, then make sure you push the chairs, the bench, the team chairs back so that there is enough room. Let's talk a little bit about on the court pregame. Let's be on the court, let's be on the floor no later than 15-minute mark. I think the clocks are going to start at 20. So if you can get on the floor, let's be on the floor anywhere between the 20-minute mark and the 15-minute mark. The 18-minute mark is probably ideal. Now, talked about this before. The time during team warmups is not a time to socialize with your partners, okay? However, if you have pertinent information to share with your partners, do so and then get back to your position. We've got a job to do. You know, look for uniform violations, identify preventive officiating opportunities. You know, it's a time to build rapport with players, you know, since we no longer are meeting players before the game and all that kind of stuff. That's your opportunity to talk with players, you know, find out who the captain is. Hey, captain, how you feeling tonight? Team ready? Yeah, we're ready to go. Okay, no, we're looking forward to a good game as well. Preventive officiating, you know, watch the ball handlers. Hey, 25, and you know, you may not know their number because they're wearing warm-ups, but hey, you know, I need you to keep your hands on top of the ball at all times here. You know, I don't want to have to call any palming violations during the game. Or if you see that the three-point shooters are taking that little bunny hop in pregame, hey, you know that's going to be a travel if you do that in the game. You know, I need you to put the ball on the floor if you're going to do that. You know, just little things. Build some rapport. Get the players. You know, get the players on our side to start the game. Go over as a crew to meet the head coaches at the 13-minute mark. The R will stay, and U1 and U2 will leave to meet the assistant coaches. We want the R to indicate to coaches that officials will be opposite table for the national anthem and player introductions, and discourage the players from, you know, we want the coaches to discourage the players from coming over and fist bumping the officials, okay? During the national anthem, we want to present a unified front. So we need the crew to agree on either hands behind the back or hand over the heart. We don't really care, one or the other, but let's make sure all officials do the same thing. You know, if you get outvoted by your crew 2-1, just go with the program. I don't want to have a all-out brawl before the game during the national anthem between the crew in terms of, you know, get into a political argument or conversation about what's more appropriate. You know, actually, if the officials are standing during the national anthem, that's half the battle. So, okay, now we move to the game starts. All of these things should have already been covered. Well, that's redundant. These things should have already been covered in your pregame meeting. So I'll just go through a few of them. Again, Jason has gone through a lot of these as well, but they're just reminders. So again, as you think about having your pregame meeting, these are things that you should cover. And again, I'm not the know-all, I'm not the be-all, but I've tried to list a number of things that I go through when I do my pregame. So first thing I tell my crew, let's be prepared for anything off the opening tip. Anything can happen. You hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. You know, you could have a violation by the jumper, either jumper or any of the 8 non-jumpers, and be prepared for that. We could have the ball go out of bounds prior to possession being established. So you want to be prepared to handle all of that. Make sure that the possession arrow gets established correctly at the beginning of the game. We want the trail and center to officiate high ball screen action. You know, if we can get an illegal screen early in the game, it sends the message that we are a veteran crew that officiates off-ball activity. You're not going to get away with anything tonight, okay? As a lead, I've also officiated, or the lead should also officiate back screens that originate in or near the post area. So if you're the lead and you got a post player that goes to set a screen at the elbow, they set a back screen, you know, your trail is busy with the ball and the defender, you know, so if you can pick that up for your trail, that would be great. That's great officiating from a crew perspective. So we talked about setting good screens. Conversely, you know, if we're asking offensive players to set good screens, let's protect them when they do. So if you have a defensive player that bull rushes through a good screen, that should be a foul on the defensive player. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know, so let's make sure we get that. Let's not reward the defense for fouling. You know, if we can hold the whistle just a split second, you know, the offensive player may be closer to gathering the ball and being in the act of shooting. And if so, we can send that player to the line for free throws. Let's not penalize the defense for verticality. If the defender jumps straight up and then contact occurs, we either have a no call or we have player control. And a lot of people, you know, what's the definition of jumping straight up? Well, jumping straight up is defined as, you know, a defender leaving the ground from point A and landing back on the ground at point A. So they go straight up and they go straight down, they're vertical. So we can bounce the ball to an inbound thrower anywhere on the court. Always inbound the ball closer to the spot of the foul or the violation, even if it causes a rotation. Let's not be lazy, okay? We clamored and campaigned and volleyed, you know, for three-person officiating, then we should give three-person officiating the respect that it deserves. Move to where you need to move. Never bounce the ball across the lane to a player for an inbound throw-in. Okay, so if we're on the baseline and you're on one side and then the inbound thrower is on the other side, we're not going to do that. Okay. That's girls, or shouldn't say girls, that's women's mechanic. I absolutely hate it. I think it looks bad, but that's just my personal opinion. Give sharp blasts of the whistle on baseline throw-ins when offense has the ball in the front court. So if we're on the baseline and we're standing in the front court because the offense has an inbounds throw-in, let's just give a sharp blast of the whistle, letting the defenders know that the ball is about to be in play. Let's see, what else do I have here? Last second shot mechanics. Obviously, the official administering last shot is going to be opposite table. It could either be the trail or the C. I personally like, if I'm opposite table, I lock myself in as the C, probably at the 15-second mark. Again, this is something you need to pregame. If that's what I'm going to do, then my lead needs to know that if they bounce, you know, if they bounce to my side, I'm not going to move from C to T. I'm going to stay at C. And if we have a turnover and we're going the other way, my lead needs to know he or she needs to fill table side, because I'm going to have last second shot going the other way using those mechanics. Restricted arc plays, that's the lead's primary call. I think we can all agree. If C sees something different, C should come in with color and jersey number. And, you know, as a reminder, the restricted arc is designed to clean up train wrecks in the paint, you know, i.e. a secondary, for example, a secondary defender slides over to take a charge from an oncoming offensive player who has beat his or her primary defender. So also, if the secondary defender goes vertical off the ground within the restricted area, he or she is still legal, even if contact occurs. So Could only have a, restricted area foul on a grounded secondary defender. Blocking foul, I should say, on a grounded secondary defender. Oh, where are we going to go? Communication with table. When reporting timeouts, technical fouls, bench warnings related to coaches, we are no longer using team colors. So we're no longer saying black coach, white coach, red coach, whatever color coach. Instead, use the school name or the mascot. For example, if you're giving a bench warning to Minnetonka, the wording that you want to use is a bench warning is assessed to the Minnetonka coach. And please record it in the book at whatever time you are in the game. Or a technical foul is assessed to the skipper's coach. So I think the Minnetonka, I think their mascot is skippers, right? So I mean, use either the school name or the mascot, either one. But let's get away from black coach, white coach, green coach, yellow coach. Table reporting, fouls. We're doing two-hand reporting of jersey numbers. Those should be out front. Jersey numbers should be reported out front, directly out front in your body. Number of shots we want out to the side in the direction of the mid-court line. So it just depends on which side of the mid-court line you are reporting a foul from will determine which way you point the number of foul shots. Single jersey numbers are reported with left hand. Right hand represents tens and your left hand represents digits. So if you have 3, you're going to go blue 3, block, shooting 2. My note page keeps disappearing here. In conjunction with that, we're going to use the left hand for, I just said that, single jersey numbers are reported with the left hand, and then the cup C signaling the coach when they're reporting a timeout or whatever, we're going to, that should be given using the right hand. So you want to give it so that the table is reading, you want to give it from the perspective of the table reading letters. So that would be your right hand. If we have technical fouls, let's make sure the calling official and at least one of the other non-calling officials come together. You want to make sure that things are administered in the proper sequence. We have the correct shooter if we need a specific shooter. And we want to make sure that the ball is being inbounded at the correct spot. If it's an intentional foul, we're going to inbound it at the spot of the foul. If it's just a regular technical foul, we're going to opposite table mid-court. Okay. The third official should be watching the 10 players. So you want that third official to be aware of what's going on with the 10 player. I like separating teams when there's a technical foul. Hey, white, you guys go over there. Black, you guys go over there. That way I know that there's distance between the teams and nobody's given, has an opportunity to slide in and elbow or can say any, can say anything inappropriate to one of the other team's members. So I just like putting distance between teams when there's a technical foul involved, especially if all 3 officials need to come together and talk about the technical foul. Then you definitely want to make sure that the teams are separate. Hey, just send them to their bench while you guys are talking about it. Did I talk about last second shot? I did. Long switches. I forgot to talk about that. Long switches primarily involve, you're in the half court. They primarily involve the lead, who has some type of offensive foul, either a team control foul or an offensive player control, and we're going the other way. Well, if I'm the lead, I expect to be replaced by either my C or my trail, depending on what side of the court I'm on. So if I'm table side, I expect my my trail to come and get me. If I'm opposite table, I expect my C to come get me. So when the lead blows the whistle and you know it's an offensive foul, don't turn and just take off and go the other way. We want. I sort of have come to like the switch. I didn't maybe like it all that much at first, but if the trail is anticipating, the trail can get there, can switch, and while the old lead is reporting, and the old lead's going to become the old lead's going to become the new lead going the other way too, by the way. So he can take care of business. He or she can take care of business. The ball will be ready to be inbounded by the time the old lead is done reporting and getting ready to move down to the new lead. If the ball is advanced up the court before we have that foul, then you're gonna have to just use your best judgment. If I'm becoming the new trail and the ball is being advanced up the court, I'm probably just gonna, and I get a foul there, I'm probably just gonna step out to call a foul, inbound the ball, and we're just gonna go. So use some common sense on the other switches. End of game situations, let's make sure we come together as many times as you can and or need to at the end of close games. And the veterans call this having a quickie quiz. And this is going to be more prevalent in those 4 to 5 matchups. You've got the 4 and 5 seeds, and you've got the 3 and 6 seeds planned in quarterfinal games. Those games have a tendency to come down to the wire. So I'm not saying that the 1-8 matchup can't and the 2-7 matchup can't, but the 4-5 and the 3-6 matchups you're more likely to find yourself in close games with those seedings. So what do you do? At timeouts, you want to come together, be aware, everybody should be aware of clock and score. Coming out of a timeout, where's the ball to be inbounded? Was the timeout after a made basket? Can the inbounding team run the baseline? Was the timeout after a foul or violation? Now we've got a spot throw in. So you need to let the inbound thrower know exactly what they can and cannot do, right? And everybody in the gym should see you communicating that to the inbounder. If they can run, the run, run the baseline, the spot throw in signal. We don't want any mistakes at that point of the game. No number and type of timeouts each team has remaining. You have to, as a veteran official, when you get to that next level of officiating, you can almost anticipate in late game situations when a coach is going to ask or request a timeout. And a lot of times, if you're shooting free throws, the ball is dead or whatever, then you can go to a coach. Hey, what do you want to do after a made free throw? What if you miss? Especially, if you only have a few seconds left in the game. They will tell you, I want a timeout after a made or after a make. Or if we miss, I want a timeout after we get the ball across half court. That's information that makes you a better official. You don't have to guess. He just told you what he wants to have happen. He or she just told you what they want to do. All right. No bonus situation. Are both teams in the bonus? Is only one team in the bonus? Are both teams in double? Is only one team in double? And then that's a good time to confirm your last second shot mechanics. All right. Ooh. That's all I have. It is now 7:15. We're 40 perfect time. We're 45 minutes in. Let's check in on the chat. What do we have in the chat?
I don't see too many much. If anyone has questions, Eric, while we've got everyone on, let's review arbiter pay real quick. I'll review arbiter pay.
Okay.
because just like game times and game places, pay can be different from section to section, right?
Okay.
There will be, I'm sure, some sections where the school will take your information. There will be some sections where the section office is paying Gopher State officials, and then we'll have to send out checks. And under our new system, we're going to be, any check that comes from Gopher, money that you should expect from Gopher for any postseason assignment should come through Arbiter Pay. Correct, Eric?
That is correct.
So let's just go through Arbiter Pay real quick for those who don't know what it is.
Also, can I interrupt you for a second? Maybe Rick can opine on this. I'm hoping that all sections are going to pay the officials that are working their games. I'm hoping no section sends Gopher a check for us to turn around and have to pay the officials, even via Arbiter. But Rick, can you opine on that?
And that is my hope as well. I can't guarantee everything. Austin's right. Each section does something different. One thing that may tip you off, if you look on your game information, the bottom line says bill to. So what happens if there's something in that drop-down menu for the bill to, it might say Region 8AA, Minnesota State High School League. It might have Ray Kirsch. It might have Doug Darnell. It might have something else. If there's a name in that bill to section, that's where you can expect payment to be coming from. If nothing in there, then you can expect to be filling out paperwork at your game. I think what I can just tell you right now is, again, this is new for me, new for everybody. I think you can assume that I will take responsibility to make sure that your game information is given to the appropriate person. If you have a question, you can send me an email, but I would just wait for 2-3 weeks after your game. And again, I have that a priority, so I'm going through every single game and I'm making sure at the conclusion of the game that this is automatically forwarded to the appropriate person to get you paid. As of right now, I am not aware of any section that is going to be paying Gopher State a lump sum, and then we're going to be sending it out. But having said that, that's quite feasible. So I think it'd be good for us to go through the process in case a region does end up paying Gopher. And if the good news, if that does happen for the officials' perspective, you're going to get paid just like that, because the region's going to pay us on a quick turnaround, and you're going to get paid within a day or two of Gopher State receiving the money through that Arbiter Pay.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
All right, then I'll just head through it real quick, just in case. I guess you never know, right?
Are you sharing the screen, Austin?
Yeah. Can you see it now? I just started sharing.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, when you go to Arbiter, no matter what account you're on here, whether you're with your Minnesota State High School League, your section or state, you're going to see a payment tab up here. And so you're going to click on that payment tab. And then there will be an option to add all your accounts and whatnot. You can see it. I've already added it. If you don't have something here, you'll have an option to add a bank account or whatever routing kind of way you want to go. And it's really simple as that. After that, you'll be set to go. You'll get information when someone sends you money. One other thing I wanted to show real quick, we talked about the ever changing of how you have to go back in and accept a game once a game gets switched. Once Rick has to put in a location, you'll have to re-accept it. One way you can make sure you get those notifications is if you go to profile and preferences, you can check these boxes to make sure you get text updates and email updates for all these scenarios. So in my settings right now, I have a check mark for an email and a text message every time. It'll notify me 24 hours or 48 hours, I believe, within advance of a game. If you get a new game, if there's a new event, if the game changes any kind of information, if I've been unassigned for it, and also reminders for different events. So I would highly, strongly suggest going in and setting your preferences, especially for section games, that you get a email and a text message reminder.
Austin, let me ask you this. Every official should only need one Arbiter Pay account, right?
Correct.
You're working for if you're doing a state tournament, if you're doing a section game, if you're doing a Gopher game, all of those assigners can use your one Arbiter Pay to pay you.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so you only need to do that once, and now you're set up basically for any association that uses arbiter.
Okay, that's the point. Okay.
And eventually,
Austin,
if you do get money in there, there will be an option that you'll have to go in and actually transfer the funds, but you'll see that you have a balance in there if someone were to pay you through arbiter.
And you can leave the money in there if you want to, right? There's nothing
Correct.
to move the money.
Austin, you had mentioned in the chat something about a arbiter app that you can include in on your cell phone, and many people have told me that that's a pretty snappy app to do. So that's something that, again, you guys might want to take a look at to get information and look at your schedule and stuff.
Yeah, it's a super good resource if you're about ready to get in the car and you need to pull up an address, you need to remember who you're working with. It's got it all right there at the click of a button.
Hey, I thought of a couple other things that were not in my notes that I'd like to cover, and then maybe we can go back to the chat room if we have additional questions or whatnot. But or actually, I work with Johnny Mack and Toby Sackett at Anoka the other night. It was a boys' game. They were playing Centennial. A couple of things came up. Above the rim play. If you are officiating boys, you can expect some above the rim play. And the only advice I can give you as it relates to goaltending, I think we're pretty clear on what basket interference is. You know, if the ball is played with while it's on the cylinder, that's basket interference. It can either be offense or defense, depending on who's up there playing with the ball. But on goaltending, you know, I think there are going to be some changes coming down the pipe related to goaltending. Steve sent me something as well, and it's an issue that I brought up previously. But the advice I would give related to goaltending is if the offensive player gets the ball on the glass above the cylinder, and you know the cylinder is the ring, above the ring, and then after the ball hits the glass, a defender touches it, blocks it, or whatever, that's goaltending. I think that's the safest way to think about, you know, so this idea that, you know, the ball is still going up and the ball is all, you know, we just can't, it's just too hard to determine. And again, I think that change is coming down the pike from the Federation, or it's being recommended that high school adopt the college rule, which is the rule I just explained. So that may keep you out of a lot of trouble, but I think a lot of times goaltending occurs and people freeze. Luckily, Johnny Mack got the goaltending in our game the other night, which again was a sort of crew-saving call. But we don't have this issue of, well, the ball, I didn't call it because I didn't know if the ball was still going up or not, you know, and which I think a lot of officials use as a cop-out, you know, so that's, again. There was another thing that happened during the game that I told Toby Sackett at the time, there was an outstanding call. I mentioned earlier that we need to get better at what we at a double dribble situation whereby you have a loose ball and a player gains control of the ball by batting the ball to the ground. And in the game we had on what's today? The game we had on Friday, a player gained control of the ball by batting it to the floor twice, picked it up, and I'm saying, I'm on the other end, and I'm looking at this, and Toby's right there, and I'm saying, this kid's about to dribble the ball again. He had a defender on him. He pivoted once. He evidently forgot how he got control of the ball, and he put the ball back down on the floor for a second dribble, and Toby blew the whistle for double dribble, which was absolutely the right call. So let's be aware that players gaining control of the ball by batting the ball to the floor, that's their dribble. They don't get another. The other thing I think I saw in the chat, and I'm done after this, you know, we talked about no more blue coach, white coach, black coach, orange coach. When reporting numbers to the table, we're still sticking with player color. So, you know, blue 33, hit 2. So what we talked about, the coaches not referring to color does not apply to reporting fouls on players. That's it.
Eric, let me chime in just real quick, that because when you mentioned that, there was something good I saw on Twitter from the former Division I men's basketball coordinator, and you guys can agree with me or let me know if I'm wrong, but he made a really good point. You cannot dribble, fumble, dribble, but you can fumble, dribble, fumble. Does that make sense? You can't dribble, fumble the ball, and dribble again. That's that double dribble scenario.
Yeah.
But you can fumble, dribble, and then fumble again.
Yeah.
So if you want to put it in short terms. And then the second thing, when we kind of get into the mindset of sections, right? I think one word as officials, I guess it's two words. When you think of section basketball, I think of game management. And that's what I think a lot of us are looking at for newer officials who are just getting their first or two section games, or the guys who are trying to get to the class, section 8, class 4A championship game. We've been calling fouls, travels, out of bounds all year long. But the way to get to be a good section final official is your game management skills, right? And that's one thing you guys, I think all of us work on in section play is game management, right? We talk about pregame. We all know the pregame of being your primary coverage area. Let's watch off-ball officiating. But pregame scenarios that we should expect that other people don't expect to happen, right? Pre-game, what happens if we have a scrum on the floor? What's going to happen if someone throws a punch? Who's looking where? What are we going to do? Pre-game, those what other people see as unexpected moments that'll happen in a game, but to us, we're right on top of it and expect it. So I would encourage that. Don't make your pre-game just, hey, let's stay in our primary coverage area. Let's get to our good spots, right? Those are all important things, but also remember to add in those game management pieces, right? Hey, if we have a coach that is really on one of our officials, let's all be aware of where we're at in our tool belt process, right? Have we warned him yet verbally? Have we warned him yet in the book? Or have we warned him or her enough to give a technical, right? Or do we need to go right to the technical? Be cognizant of all those things in section play, especially with everyone's antenna going up a little bit.
Yeah, those are all good comments.
Right.
Craig, you have anything to add?
I do. One of the first things I want to say is thanks for coming to the meeting tonight. This is a very special time of the year. As Eric mentioned earlier, we're talking about single elimination from this point on in once we get into sections. With that being said, as officials, remember that you got to go the extra mile this time of year. And Rick, if possible, make sure you assign who the R is in the game when you go on the arbiter, if you haven't already. Contacting the venue and even both schools is a must. We have to contact the venue, and as they spoke earlier, the higher seed, even if you have to include the lower seed in. We're still living during a time of COVID. So we have to go the extra mile to make sure that we get everybody involved, we get confirmation from everybody, and we have to be ready for change at any moment. A school could be supposed to be playing another school on your assignment. They get COVID and they're out. You can't assume that what you saw 2 days ago is the same thing as it's going to be that morning. And one of the reasons for making it to this point is the trust that the association has in you, that you will take care of everything that needs to be done to make sure that the officials are at the assignment at the proper time, at the right location. If you talk to a Schreffler, a Dawson, a Gearman, I'm probably going to leave some names out. A lot of people, Thomas, whatever you want to say, the way you make it to the next level and continue to rise is that extra mile that you take that puts another feather in your hat, which gives Rick, the rest of the people involved in picking people to go to these things, the confidence that if you're on that game, we know you're going to take care of it. And this means everything to these kids. Like Eric spoke earlier, this is some of these kids' last game. Some kids will move on, some kids won't. So let's treat it like this is it for everybody in the game. With that being said, confirmation from your partners. Make sure you get confirmation from them also. Anyone that you get confirmation from for these games, make sure you get a name. Do it by email. You know, make sure you mention in your email to last minute changes to the whole school, the higher seed, even the lower seed. Put your phone number in there. Call me immediately, because we need to let everybody know that changes are being made, and everybody be ready for change. If your assignment is an unusual distance, if you can, try and meet and ride together. Rick just spoke about people going to Brainerd and Hutchinson and all these different places. If you can possibly do it, try and ride together. I get it. Sometimes, for whatever the reason, I'm not asking, I'm not even going to talk about, you might not be able to. But if you are, rule of thumb has been the person who drives, fill up your vehicle before you go, and before you drop them off, the two other riders, fill the vehicle back up, split the cost. If they're paying mileage, like Rick said, and I believe they are, we have no reason not to believe it, then the person driving is using their vehicle, their oil, whatever it comes to it. Just be good partners from the time that you accept the assignment. You know, go the extra yard to be the best partner you possibly can. And also keep it professional amongst the officials as well as the participants of the assignment. We spoke about be ready for change. One thing I want to mention, and I don't think I got a message back from Eric, but dead ball officiating. They spoke about it earlier. We've had some very unusual things take place this year. When we walk into that, from the time we walk into that location, you're working. From the time before you get out your vehicle, be professional, be an official at all times. Dead ball officiating, we cannot overstress. We've had some really strange things happen that officials took a break. It's the only thing I can say. And somebody took their guard, didn't have their guard up, and some things took place during a dead ball that should not have. Let's not be that guy or girl or gal, lady, who misses that. I forgot to mention Deb also. Eric spoke about it. What rises you to the top is knowing basketball. Okay, be ready for the timeout. It's so important. Seconds, tenths of seconds matter. You see a team score, stop another team, score, stop another team, score. You need to be looking at that coach every time that ball comes into play, because they might want a timeout after that basket. Be ready to know when that clock should stop, know what time's on that clock. We cannot miss these things. It's just too important right now. Bring your rule books, your case books, your mechanic books. Start getting into your books. Look at all the training videos that Jason has had and all the points of emphasis and different rules he wants us to look at. And I can't stress this enough. Have fun. This is the time of year that if you're worth your salt and you're trying to move up, Eric, I, and a few of us always have this thing when we ask somebody when we're watching them, what's your goal? What are you trying to become? Are you trying to go higher, or are you just okay right where you are? If you're trying to go up and you're worth your salt, you want to know your rules. You want to be ready for the opportunity. You want to accept the challenge, and you want to advance. I mean, if you talk to Tony, if you talk to Deb, I mean, there's so many people, I don't want to try to go through the list, that will tell you that they didn't accidentally get to this level of state championship games and what have you, just because they were lackadaisical. It's because they put in the time in order to be a better official. And as you do it, it will become second nature to you. Just go out there, have a good time, do the right thing, take the extra yard, and let's just have fun and be the best officials on the court. I can't stress that enough. Gopher is number one, been number one for a long time, but we need to continue to be number one. Unfortunately, because of some of the things that's happened, there used to be a time we said, don't have rabbit ears. We got to be a little bit more careful. We got to pay a little bit more time, a little bit more attention to coaches and players. for whatever the reason is, but I don't want to beat a dead horse in the ground. Just have a great time, but go the extra yard. Because while this may be a player's last game, it may be your last game for this year, but it may also not be based on the way Rick gets turnbacks. And there's nothing wrong with a turnback. People are officiating at different levels. You have family concerns. Don't think the last game on your schedule is your last game. Be ready to officiate. If you can't,
Oh,
be,
oh,
go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, yeah, good, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Be,
Now you know why we call him Rev.
you know, be ready to respond immediately to Rick so that he can make the adjustments. He doesn't have time when he makes changes. You got to be ready to change locations. You got to be ready to change partners. And if you do, be efficient and get on it immediately. Being an assigner is not easy. Doing these games aren't easy, but the reason why you're on these games is because we believe in you to do these games. Prove us right and prove us that we should continue to move you up further. That's all I got. I could go on and on, as I always say, but I only had 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks for.
Hey, Mr. Laird mentioned about having a R and 2 U's. That was something that I should have done in setup and I didn't. I had the ability to name them and I just named 3 officials. So for this year, between the 3 of you, check with each other and then have one person contact the school. It looks like that might be a common practice that's done with other, I don't know if it's college and other high school associations. So I'll try to remember that for next year, depending on what happens next year. But anyway, so that's, so I will not be going back into all these games and defining who the R is. So just between the 3 of you, figure it out and just have one of those officials contacting the school.
Respect the senior official. And if you're both the same, then you guys work it out, but do it quickly and professionally.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna go to Gearman here in a second, and then Zach, are you on the call? Zach,
I don't see him.
Zach didn't make the call. Okay, all right. Craig reminded me of a couple of things I'm gonna go through real quick, and then don't fall asleep on free throws. Okay. Again, a lot of times officials feel that free throw shooting is a time to relax and look in the stands, and again, we need to be prepared for anything. Just like I talked about jump ball at the beginning of the game. When we're shooting free throws, be prepared for anything. Don't fall asleep. The other thing that I picked up from Craig, and it goes back to watching pregame warmups, and this may be something that you guys want to adopt as well, and I've sort of stolen it from Craig, is if Craig is U1 or U2, he watches the team that he's in front of for a while, and then you'll see Craig walk down the other way and say, hey, let me have a little bit of this. And what he's basically saying is, I want to watch this team warm up. I've already watched this team. And again, you can pick up a lot of things by watching players warm up. So I'm not gonna, say anything other than that, but that is something that I've learned from Craig that I've incorporated in my pregame is I will do the same thing. Watch the team in front of me, halfway through, walk down and watch the other team. Gearman.
Yeah, I just have a couple things. As the Gopher way has always been, when you walk in a gym, you can tell a Gopher official from an MOA official or a St. Paul Cap City, Tri-Metro or Tri-Valley, what have you, just when you walk in the gym and watch the mechanics. So let's keep that in play. That being, let's always stop the clock, do your spot mechanic,
Yep.
hustle to the table, stop in the reporting area, report, and then if it's free throws, we shoot free throws. If not, we designate a spot. That's how we can determine, when I can determine when we've got Gopher officials on the floor. So that's one of the things I just wanted to reiterate. Let's keep up that longstanding tradition of Gopher officials do it the right way. We have a Gopher official at the top level of the state league, and Steve Mikowski. He's been a great resource, and those are things that they look for us being asked to do games in the state tournament. So that being said, when I'm not saying that he's the know-all, but when he says something, ears should be open and listening, because that's what they're looking for from the state high school league perspective. So when he says, let's do it the Gopher way, that's also the state high school league way. Another thing, I think, Eric, you touched on it, was about switches. We're gonna, as we've been talking about most of the times we've been doing these Zoom meetings, is we want to do long switches. So there's no confusion as to where, when to do a short switch, when to do a long switch. Just keep on going, go to the table report and keep moving on. In getting back to Mr. Mikowski, he couldn't be here today, so he sent us all a little bunch of notes that he'd like to have talk about. We've talked about most of them, but and kind of beating a dead horse here, and philosophy that he's got is put the rule book in play in the first half, hustle, trust your partners in their PCAs, stay in your PCAs, and have a patient whistle. Reward the offense, not the defense. If at all times we can put someone on the line to shoot free throws, do so. And above all, enjoy yourself. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. So be prepared, have a good pregame, and have fun. I look forward to being on the court with you guys.
Johnny Mack, are you on the line?
No, he had a conflict. I have already sent him an email. He couldn't make
You got
it.
a conflict? Okay, well. What's in the chat? Anything we need to address in the chat? We're doing good. We should be done in like a couple of minutes here. Anything in the chat that needs to be addressed?
No, chat's pretty quiet right now.
Scheffler, you got anything?
You guys covered everything, right? Enjoy yourselves while you're out there, right? And again, that good communication, talking about getting to sections early, push those chairs back. Truly. I mean, when I work with anybody I work with that's worked with me in the last few years, we get there early. I get there an hour and a half. I'm rolling with Dawson and Tony a couple times, and we'll get there early and set the court up the way we want it to be. And we'll talk about all the stuff we do, even the national anthem, all that stuff, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Gearman talked about it. Let's just do it right. Let's look professional, and that is how you get to that next level. You guys all know me. You guys all know how we all work. Let's just go out and have fun and represent what we do, right? Handle the business, ignore the fans, manage the coaches and the players. And I think we should be good, right? Just have fun with it and not overanalyze anything, but make sure you're always focused on those situations. You talk about, free throws. Eric just mentioned it. Don't fall asleep on that. I had a semifinal just the other night, and one of the players and I was the trail official, and I had the delay because it was the defense. They stepped in. I had the delay. Last night, I had Moorhead at De La Salle. The girl got the ball, and she stepped her toe across the line and then was going to go shoot. I'm like, that's a violation. And she went, what? You know what I mean? Just pick up on the small things that happen throughout the game, because that is the difference between being, moving up. Really, just get all those teeny little things, because we can get the big stuff, but pick up all the small things and talk with coaches, right? Let's talk with them. Always communicate with the coach. Coach has a question. Let's give him an answer. Be professional about it, and then get back to work, right? Make sure the table, have that good pre-game conference with the table. I don't think anybody's mentioned that. That's important, right? Because next year we're moving into a shot clock. So we don't have to talk about shot clocks this year, but we can still talk about, hey, let's communicate all the time throughout the game. And the table is part of our crew. They can help us with some things along the way, but yeah, just have fun. It should be a good few weeks coming up, and yeah, it's going to be a good time. So yeah.
Okay, anybody else want to contribute?
Yeah, Dean, go ahead. Dean had a question or a thought.
Just a couple of comments. One, I heard earlier we said about the goaltending basket interference. I think we're going up a slippery slope if we say we're going to I've been asked, because I do college, that when I'm doing high school rules, high school mechanics, college, different story. On the goaltending, you have coaches that know the rule. You got to be careful. It's a high school basketball game. And Mike Gearman brought up Steve Mikowski, high school league rules, high school league mechanics. So enforce the rules as written. Be careful when you want to go outside that box, because you're going to get that. That's not the rule. You got nothing to stand on. The other thing is we talk about being good partners, and what that entails is not only when your communication before, during, and after, it's when you're on the court, and understanding that be respectful of a play that is right in front of your partner, and not being a ball watcher and watching the entire floor. And it recently happened to me. It was the most uncomfortable situation I've ever been in. It was communicated to Rick. And I'm just saying, enjoy this, but understand we're not the show. We're there for the kids. The other thing I want to bring up is after my game at Waconia this past Friday, I had a very nice conversation with the Robbinsdale Cooper coaching staff. And I engaged that conversation, and the conversation was this: why are they so frustrated with the way things are right now? Here's what they told me, is that they see one coach being engaged and listened to and talked to. They're not. So when you talk to one coach, make sure you give that time to the other coach. You may not think it's a big deal, but just let them know when you give this coach, and it might be a Caucasian coach, and you have a coach of color or a minority, and they're asking, and you don't talk to them, they don't like that. They think that's very disrespectful. So when we're out there, we're adults, we're adult men, we're adult females, we're all adults. Communicate like adults. And all they're saying is when you give time to one person, give that same time to me or to the other coach.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to share that, is that that's their frustration, is that when one coach may be acting like a buffoon and they're not, and as soon as they step out of line, we give them a bench warning or a technical foul, and then, or we're talking to one coach and then we don't give them the same time of day.
Yeah.
So be respectful of the coaches and give them their due. Just communicate with them. You're not going to like what they say sometimes, but that's okay. But just don't talk to one coach and then ignore the other coach, and just treat them fairly and be respectful. And that's all they ask. And
Yeah.
I'm just saying that is, I want everybody to enjoy the season, because where we're going right now in officiating in high school basketball is not in a good spot. It's not. We're going to, it's dreadful. The things that are going on right now are sad. It makes me sick to my stomach. It's a game for kids. And let's just be respectful. We're adults. Let's be respectful and do it what's right for the game of basketball and these young people that play the game that we love to officiate. And that is being respectful to the coaches, okay? Give them their due, what they deserve, the respect they deserve, and they'll give it back to us. Don't ignore one guy because you don't like him or whatever.
I agree.
On each end. I'm done. I'm sorry to take up time. I just wanted to communicate that.
No, I think those same sentiments are expressed by female coaches.
I'd like to add something when it comes to technical fouls. There's at least 3 things you need to have when you call a technical foul. Is it warranted? If asked, I'm not talking about by the coach, but by your supervisor or your association president, can you defend it? And the most important thing is, did it make the game better? If you got those three things, there you go. And it should be really easy, as Eric just said. We're not going into sections thinking we're going to allow teams or coaches to get away with more than we would during the regular season, because they think they can get away with more. If it's warranted, you can defend it and it made the game better. If you got at least those three things, pull the trigger. That's all I got to say.
Excellent. I think that wraps it up here. We're about an hour and 20 minutes into it. So with that, we'll wrap it up. For those, Eric, any last thoughts, anything before we cut it off here? Important that we missed?
I thought the information shared was good. I thought the exchange, the conversation's been good. I thought, so I think it's a great meeting. I think we need to have more honest discussions about the issues that are out there, because Dino is right. The high school basketball, if you read that article that's in the chat room, we put in the chat room, high school basketball is in trouble. But it's not in trouble because of the officials.
Yep. So I think that's pretty good for us. If you got questions, let us know. Good luck to all those guys and gals who are starting sections on Tuesday. One big thing, if you have a weird play that comes up, don't be afraid to email us, right? I think the basketball committee is gonna make a heavy interest here in trying to get out and evaluate some of our newer section officials. We've worked on a master spreadsheet, so we know where people are working on what dates. We're going to try and watch live streams. If you know where you're working, we're going to try and watch those games. If you had weird plays, even if it's on March 1st with the 15 seed playing the 10 seed, let us know, because all that's going to do is help our officials for the next week get better. If we can share plays like that. So that's all I've got.
Austin, I do have one more thing.
Go ahead, Eric.
I'm speaking on behalf of Steve. Steve and I, again, we're living vicariously through you guys. We're not working sections this year. We're not working a state tournament. So you have no bigger supporters than the two of us. And all we want is to see all of our officials be successful. It makes us, for lack of a better term, proud papas, if you will. So you have our support, and we have all the faith and all the confidence in the world in the officials that we've put on the court. And have fun, smile, enjoy the camaraderie, because we don't do this for the pay. We do it because we enjoy the game. We have a passion for the game of basketball. We have a passion for the people that we work with. We have a passion for our association. And so on behalf of Gopher, just want to say thank you.
Go out and make Bozo proud.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.